David R. Guttery is the president of Keystone Financial Group in Trussville, Alabama. David Guttery and Seth Edgell are financial advisors who represent Emeritus Investment Company, LLC, and Emeritus Advisory Services. Please stay tuned through the end of the video for additional important disclosure information.
Hello everyone. Today I'm joined by Seth Edgell with Keystone Financial Group here in Trussville to discuss planning financially for life's unexpected events. Seth, thanks so much for joining us today. The last time you were here, we talked about changes to the financial planning landscape brought about by the Secure Act 2.0. Today, I understand you want to shift gears and talk about a subject that isn't always top of mind for everyone.
Yes, that's correct. Often people come to our firm seeking wealth management advice. In layman's terms, they want to know how to invest their money to grow the pot of money as large as possible. Since we are planners first and foremost, we like to take a step back and learn more about their life. Oftentimes, it's not about how much your finances are growing, but it's about how much your finances are serving you. Advice seekers for wealth management advice are actually asking me, what would you do for investing if you were certain nothing would ever go wrong in my life again? For today's discussion, I want to focus on how we can plan for when things aren't perfect and we need some assistance due to declining health.
Well, that's an interesting topic. So often we hear of people needing long-term care. However, the thought of planning for it seems so far away for me. I assume this type of care can be very expensive.
That's correct. Long-term care treatment can be very expensive. According to the Genworth Cost of Care Survey, the average cost of a private room in a long-term care facility in the Birmingham, Alabama metro area is $85,410 per year. The average length of stay in an assisted living facility for Americans is about 28 months, according to a report jointly published by the American Healthcare Association and the National Center for Assisted Living. Using the above figures, that brings the average cost of a stay in a private room in the Birmingham area to roughly $199,300. Keep in mind that when we consider averages, roughly half the people stay for a longer period of time and the other half have a shorter stay. To complicate planning for these events even more, there's discrepancy in the average length of stay between men and women. According to the Administration on Aging, women stay for an average of 3.7 years in an assisted living facility, while men only stay for an average of 2.2 years. The challenge for us as planners is attempting to accomplish the goals of the client while not disinheriting a beneficiary or surviving spouse. It can be challenging to plan for these types of events, but it is necessary.
Well, that is very costly. I had no idea it was that expensive. Would Medicare not step in to help offset the cost?
According to Medicare.gov, Medicare and most health insurances, including Medigap coverages, don't pay for long-term care. Long-term care, sometimes referred to as custodial care, usually falls 100% on the patient to cover the cost. However, in your question, I think it is important to bring up that not all custodial care is for elderly patients. While the majority of long-term care patients are elderly, sometimes circumstances would arise for a person not of age to receive Medicare to receive custodial care for a chronic illness or disability. It is possible to get the government to provide assistance for long-term care. According to Medicaid.gov, in Alabama, you can be approved for a facility costing no more than $2,742 per month in 2023. According to the American Council on Aging, there are limits on income of $2,829 per month for a single person or $5,658 per month for a couple to qualify for nursing home Medicaid. There is also a resource limit of $2,000 per month for an individual or $3,000 per month for a couple. However, if one spouse does not need care and intends to live in the home, then that resource limit for the non-patient spouse is $154,140 in 2024. Counted resources can be, but are not limited to, cash, real estate, mutual funds, CDs, annuities, mineral and timber rights, etc. In order to qualify for Medicaid benefits, you must either spend down your assets or shield your assets from being counted in a qualifying insurance trust, or QIT for short. A QIT is a type of trust that can help you become or remain eligible for Medicaid. The sole purpose of a QIT is to create a legal pathway to Medicaid eligibility for those that would otherwise be disqualified due to income or available resources. In my personal opinion, relying on Medicaid for your care should be considered a last resort. Through proper planning, it is possible to avoid having to complete complicated governmental paperwork, spending down resources to a great degree.
Would a person looking to apply for Medicaid not be able to transfer their assets to a beneficiary prior to applying in order to qualify?
Yes. However, since we are dealing with a government agency, there are certain rules to how this must be done. According to Medicaid in Alabama, there is a 60-month look-back period. If it is found any assets were sold below fair market value during that time, which goes back 5 years from the date of the application to Medicaid, then an applicant would be penalized by Medicaid for this transaction. There have been instances where this penalty was applied for informal payments to a caregiver or asset transfers done by a non-applicant spouse. Since it is hard to know when exactly we will need custodial care, this option of transferring ownership of assets to beneficiaries is a risky endeavor.
You mentioned that Medicaid isn't the first place you would look to help pay for long-term care expenses. Where would you point our viewers if they wanted to utilize other options?
Correct. When working with my clients, I typically look for other alternatives to pay for long-term care needs. I should mention that this type of planning work should be done well in advance of needing long-term care. Since everyone is different on how they view their needs, I found out what an ideal long-term care event would look like for them. Would they prefer in-home care? Would they prefer a private room? Do they have a specific facility in mind? These are all questions that could arise in looking for the expected cost of care. At that point, I'm going to inflate those costs based on custodial care industry averages to some point in the future. After we know a good estimate for an expected cost, we're going to evaluate a myriad of options in order to pay for the care. Some options include, but are not limited to, standalone long-term care insurance, a hybrid life insurance policy with provisions to pay for long-term care, an annuity-based solution with payouts designed to pay for long-term care, a fixed income investment that could provide payments to pay for long-term care, or self-insurance, setting the cost of the care aside in a stable value account. I think it's important to make the distinction that this list does not include all of the funding vehicles for long-term care planning. I want to reiterate, every person has a unique set of circumstances where there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all solution.
Well, these are great points, Seth. What would you say to those who think that they probably won't need long-term care?
I would say to those people, hopefully, they do not ever need long-term care. However, most of us know at least one person requiring custodial care right now. According to the 2020 census, every day until 2030, 10,000 baby boomers will turn 65. Also, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 7 out of 10 people will require long-term care in their lifetime. So statistically speaking, receiving custodial care is more likely than not needing custodial care. Thus, we should plan for this event.
I agree with you. This is an important subject matter, and we all need to put careful thought into how we would prefer our custodial care to be administered. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yes. Viewers can feel free to use me or my firm, Keystone Financial Group, as a resource of information about custodial care planning or any other financial planning matter. When researching about Medicaid application, I would suggest seeking legal advice from a Medicaid specialist, as I do not offer legal advice. I appreciate the opportunity to come share.
Well, absolutely, Seth. Thank you for sharing all of these things with us today. For additional information, Seth may be reached through the means listed upon the following screen. For the Trustful Tribune, I'm Brannon Dawkins.
David Guttery and Seth Edgell independently offer securities and investment advisory services through Emeritus Investment Company, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, and Ameritas Advisory Services. Information provided in today's segments is gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed and should not be interpreted as tax or legal advice. Any performance stated is past performance and is not indicative of future results.